Jason, I'm you from the future, whatever you do.
Let's say time travel was possible. When would you actually go? Would you catch the Wright brothers conquer the sky for 12 seconds in 1903? Or sneak into Rome to peep the painting of the Sistine Chapel by Michelangelo in 16th century Italy? You might even travel to the year 3000 to not only realize humanity's inevitable posterity, but also to see if Nick's great-great-great-granddaughter is actually doing fine. Even though pop culture has evidently milked the life out of both time travel to the past and the future, right off the bat, one is scientifically proven while the other faces deeply problematic existential fallacies
The scientists then killed their past self, and a
that
man
may or may not lead to the entire timeline being tainted.
That is the paradox.
Michael J. Fox taught us that. Theoretically speaking, traveling backwards in time to any extent faces severe physical hurdles, where the issue of causality and paradoxes comes into heavy play.
I'm gonna be here a minute, Apple.
Take the famous grandfather paradox, where a time traveler might inadvertently alter an event that prevents their own conception.
What do you think you're doing?
To where physicists, including the late Stephen Hawking, proposed the chronology protection theory,
And Galileo, Newton, we got one right here. It's fantastic.
suggesting the universe's innate laws inherently prevent time travel to the past to protect cause and effect. It's like a built-in airbag for the universe. Safety inspection passed!
Oh, it's gonna like smash something.
Even if Einstein's general relativity mathematically allows for this through conceptual wormholes or the rotation of black holes, it would still require resources like negative energy, which has no real evidence to exist in nature. Not to be confused with dark matter, which is a completely other beast in and of itself. But we'll get into that.
In the beginning, there was a bag.
You get the bag and fumble it, I get the bag and flip it and tumble it.
While on the other hand, moving forward in time is a proven reality via either velocity or gravity, where the faster you travel through space, the slower you move through time. If you were to travel in a spaceship close to the speed of light, or about 186,000 miles per second, for context, the fastest known jet only go around 7,000 miles per hour. For an extended period, you would age incrementally slower than people on Earth. Once you return, you would technically be stepping out into Earth's future. Time also moves slower in stronger gravitational fields, where satellites orbiting the Earth generally experience weaker gravity than we do on the surface. Therefore, clocks tick faster, and engineers must adjust them daily to keep them in sync with Earth. Though both evidently not the same as going to 88 miles and actually traveling back in time with God.
On Monday the 7th, so you have 5 days to locate me. According to my letter, I'm a blacksmith.
According to physicist Carlo
Time's
Rovelli,
about losing things, or about opening new spaces. In both cases, it's emotional. Well, I
what
just
we
find it.
experience as time is actually just entropy. The structure of a human life is merely the movement from order to disorder. The sensation of time is just our brains making sense of our gradual decay into disorder. Some people might find this deeply unnerving, but it's also kind of liberating. Carlo is presumably an existentialist. Time. What we recognize since birth, but most don't fully comprehend until closer towards the end of the ride. The scariest thing about time isn't how fast it moves, but rather how quietly it
Welcome to the
disappears.
birth of time travel.
As a society, we tend to live like there's always more, until there's not. Time. The continuous, irreversible progression of existence and events from the past, through the present, and into the future. Which is no wonder the notion of voyaging across such, while others merely trudge along, floating in the lazy river that is existence. Has been a fascination of pop culture and ancient myths alike. Societally, the concept of time travel serves as a cultural mirror, having been attempted to be manipulated by not only individuals but global systems almost as much as money or power. Time travel reflects humanity's deepest anxieties towards mortality, agency, and the unknown. By testing the boundaries of destiny and consequence, one can reliably tackle many of the ethical and moral dilemmas of reality itself.
This trip has a paradox risk of 3.1.
Though it hasn't stopped pop culture from turning it into one of the most versatile tropes in not only movies and TV,
This is all wrong. This skirt is from the 40s, and this blouse, they didn't have this kind of fabric back then.
but
Or
also
underwear.
in books and gaming. Whether it be the DeLorean from Back to the Future, or quintessential cinematic plutonium-powered two-door coupe time machine. To TARDIS from Doctor Who, or, you know, the infinitely vast British police box phone booth time machine. And more recently, even Rick Sanchez's portal gun.
Hoo-ha! Check it out. A dimension where hats wear people.
All evolving from a simple sci-fi gimmick into a complex narrative tool used across almost every genre,
Quit yelling. What the? Your time is all whipped up to hell. You broke your
allowing
time
creators to explore paradoxes, alternate histories, not to mention the emotional weight of
Don't be
changing the
nervous.
past,
Don't change anything. Understand?
or embracing an unappetizing future. Even though our movies and shows make it seem like a fairly self-explanatory standard that comes with technological advancement, in reality, the movement across the fourth dimension has numerous logical or physical contradictions, generally categorized into three groups. Consistency paradoxes, or the altering of history, causal loops, or objects without origin, and time dilation
The
effects.
bag appeared, and Dumb Nate looked away for a split second. A
Oh,
short
you
time
know.
to be sure, but all
Move fast, time slow. The first being, and I don't know why there would be any reason for anybody to do this outside of conceptual interpretation, the aforementioned grandfather paradox, arguably the most famous temporal paradox where if you travel back in time and, let's say, prevent your grandfather from meeting your grandmother in any way, if you succeed at maybe the most counterintuitive play known to mankind, your parent then is never born. Ergo, you are never born. This technically then leaves no one to travel back in time, meaning your grandfather then does meet the love of his life. Hopefully.
I have murdered my younger self, and causality appears to be unaffected, like completely unaffected.
Your parent is born, and you then exist to travel back and try to stop them again? Evidently, this creates an infinite self-contradictory loop. As if an event happens, it can't possibly not happen. Now you can chalk this up to negating the entire concept of time travel altogether, as God seems to have everything set in stone. Though this doesn't deter the possibilities of theoretical physicists and philosophers who've suggested frameworks to explain how the universe resolves these contradictions if backward time travel ever becomes possible. Such as physicist Igor Novikov's self-consistency principle, proposing that the probability of a consistency paradox happening is actually zero, as you can't change the past since your actions have been already baked into the timeline, if you will. If you travel back in time, you're actually just fulfilling history, not altering it, implying that time travelers lack the free will to create paradoxes themselves.
No sense. I repeat. refer you to my aforementioned...
And if you do attempt to prevent a historical event, circumstances like miscalculations or other universal powers will always intervene to prevent you from altering the established timeline. It's like an autocorrect for space-time. Yeah, so all y'all who turn off autocorrect, the universe don't even. Another paradox to wrap your head around would be causal loops, or the bootstrap paradox.
Which has been used in things like the Ocarina of Time, Time Splitters, Terminator, and Back to the Future.
A closed loop in time travel occurs when a future event travels back in time to trigger the exact same past event.
Time travel has not taken place. Instead, I have traveled to an identical universe.
Since it creates an infinite circle of cause and effect, the traveler can never change history. In this closed timeline, the past, present, and future are set in stone.
Okay, campers.
Because history has technically already accounted for the traveler's interference, changing the past is essentially impossible. Any action you take to prevent an event actually ends up causing it in the first place. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that there aren't any consequences to a closed loop causality, as this would also mean that an object, person, or piece of information has no traceable origin. Or simply, let's say you travel to the year 3000, read a famous book, travel back in time and decide to publish it under your own name in the past. Cultural context aside, the book now exists in an endless loop, never having been originally written by anyone.
Who are you?
We see this when Harry casts the Patronus charm to save his past self, since he already remembered to be saved by it.
Oh yeah.
Predestination, the 2014 Australian sci-fi thriller where the protagonist's entire life functions as a closed loop paradox, where they are their own mother, father, and child. Crazy watch, by the way. Temporal agent Ethan Hawke basically impregnates his younger female self in the past. I'm being so deadass. While other physicists argue a simple solution to these contradictions, which seems the most plausible, is that any change you make in the past creates an alternate parallel reality or timeline, and the original universe remains unaffected, creating a multiverse. Shout out MCU!
Wanda, Black Bolt could destroy you with one whisper from his mouth.
In our rush to build a life, we often forget to live it. We spend decades chasing goals, facing loss, and surviving the unthinkable. And through it all, one fact stands out. Life isn't measured in minutes or seconds, but in the moments we're fully present. Metaphysically speaking, whether time exists or not is irrelevant to our everyday life, since we are, after all, finite beings. Though some may choose to believe otherwise.
It's how we understand our mindset. It's what we aspire to become as a species. I would say, like, on the long list of things that have changed humanity,
there will come a point when we'll cease to exist in the same form as we stand today. What happens after that has been the great human mystery since antiquity. The general idea of time as our fourth dimension compared to our three physical spatial dimensions first gained traction when Hermann Minkowski, a renowned German mathematician and professor known simply as Minkowski Spacetime. Yo, it's like a Scott Pilgrim character.
For her? No.
Stated in 1908 that space by itself and time by itself are doomed to fade away into mere shadows. This integrated view of space-time has underlaid countless astro and theoretical physics-based theories of how one may realistically travel along the timeline. Though most of this is theoretical, time travel itself is still grounded in the laws of physics, explaining why the direction of travel determines its feasibility. If you were to actually get your hands on the DeLorean without Hollywood magic, you couldn't just hit a certain speed and then go back in the past. They got like everything wrong. Getting to a certain speed only gets you in the future. And you would need 170,000 miles per hour at least to even get close. Oh yeah, those numbers are only for when in a vacuum. So, newsflash, Doc drifted us all. Realistically, it would be more so traversable
Use a
wormholes.
wormhole, a shortcut through space and time.
Hypothetical tunnels in space-time that could bridge two distinct points in both. If one end of the wormhole were accelerated to near light speed, or placed in a strong gravitational field, time would pass at different rates for each opening. Entering one and exiting the other could, theoretically, place the traveler in the past, as long as it's not an interdimensional camp trap.
Oh no, we died, dude. Yeah.
Certain solutions to Einstein's field equations also suggest that space-time can bend so severely that a timeline loops back onto itself. Known as closed timelike curves in general relativity, allowing a traveler to continuously journey further back into the past with every loop. The timelike comes from the path an object takes, which never exceeds the speed of light and, ergo, feels like time. The world line curves in this case, or space-time the flexible fabric of the universe, allowing an observer to interact with their own past. It's believed that when massive black holes are rotating, they drag the fabric along with them. If this gravitational twisting is strong enough, it tilts light cones, or the boundaries of how far anything can travel in space and time, to the point where forward and backward overlap, making the trip into the past physically possible in theory. Though even if each of these possibilities for traveling along the fourth dimension would essentially bar any living being from embarking on such a journey, there's still other problems outside of merely the violation of cause and effect, shattering the foundational rules of the universe. For one, there's the energy problem, where the construction or stabilizing of a wormhole would theoretically require massive amounts of negative mass, or negative energy density, which, again, humanity has yet to definitively prove exists in large usable quantities. Time travel to the past presents a monumental energy crisis. The unimaginable power needed to not only manipulate our universe's fabric, but also then to stabilize those pathways. It's far more than Mr. Peabody and Sherman had made it out to be.
Ancient Egypt. Who are you?
Our favorite theoretical physicist, Dr. Michio Kaku, even pointed out that powering a time machine would likely require harnessing the full energy output of an entire star. So unless you got Dr. Octavius on speed dial, we might only be able to go into the future.
Do I know you?
What have you done with my machine?
Your machine. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know. What machine?
The power of the sun.
Secondly, there's the space gone.
Listen, sir, if you...
As Earth is moving through the galaxy at about 514,000 miles per hour, and the Milky Way is moving through the universe at approximately 1.3 million miles per hour, unless you got the best GPS in all of the galaxies.
Change the language.
And keep in mind, if we're driving, trying to locate someone that's also driving, even if it's 30 miles per hour, you playing manhunt.
Smile and wave, boys. Smile and
Time
wave.
travel without simultaneously calculating precise spatial coordinates for two objects moving at 3 or 10 times the speed of light is bound to deposit you in the vacuum of space millions of miles away from where you were supposed to be. Better hope you got enough plutonium in the tank, cause E now means utter death. Even if we're still decades or millennia out from experiencing time travel from a consumer point of view, but I'm still putting my money on some type of underwater speed tunnel, at least. I'll get to the future, but I'm not gonna know how to get back.
Okay, alright, I'll prove it to you. Look at my driver's license.
Yeah, the better still be real beef, that's all I'm gonna say. The concept of time travel has still been on the minds of creators for thousands of years. as a speculative genre exploring the philosophical limits of free will, historical consequence, and nostalgia. From early scientific romances like H.G. Wells' The Time Machine in 1895, to our modern explorations of destiny, time loops remains a powerful narrative device. Wells popularized the physical time machine that we know today, using the forward trajectory to critique contemporary social inequality and dystopian futures, spawning countless homages and reworks of the same model coming after since then. The power of dreams before this, physical travel lay with early works like Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, from 1843 relying on dreams to shift narrative viewpoints backward or forward through time. Modern contemporary authors now use time slips or skips and loop mechanics to examine human emotion, and how one would essentially cope with an absurd temporal situation. Take the Groundhog Day trope, which has been used for not only dreamy dramas, but also deeply unsettling horror pieces, where the protagonist has to relive a certain day over and over again.
I already ate it last night.
Until they either work something out within themselves or solve a temporal psychopath's puzzle. You know, whichever one comes first.
Did you drug him first? You knew that.
A central question in many of these movies, shows, or novels is whether an event's trajectory is set in stone or if a protagonist can alter the timeline. The infamous butterfly effect requires authors to create strict universe rules to raise narrative stakes. A fate versus free will paradox, if you will. The inability to undo the past is a common theme, often acting as a metaphor for processing grief, regret, or sentimentality. Emotional resolution is often the central goal, or exactly what the protagonist is kept from having. And in many ways, that's often also the overall motivation and why we would ponder about the same concept of time travel. Most of us, when brought up the idea, most likely jump at the chance of going back in the past. Sure, going to the future would be cool, but never the same allure that the ability to right a wrong or relive out a point in our past could inevitably bring. Something that so clearly has interlays with science and technology actually reveals itself within society as a philosophical cheat, or a hall pass, if you will, for personal consequence. As in many ways, it's less about the variables and theoretical physics that have to do with time travel, and more about, again, humans attempting to mitigate the immutable cosmic frameworks of the universe. Or, you know, you might just want to go back to ancient Egypt to peep what really went on. Same, twin. Same. Time for you to get a watch, bitch. Expecto Patronum! And then Ronald McDonald pops out. In reality, Ethan Hawke is actually related to Tony Hawk. I got front row seats for the box-side living. Feel like the one, but I'm one in a billion. Yeah, I'm so cynical. And I don't really know what's the point of living if my heart gets broken. Driving on the road waiting for an on collision. Springtime, yeah, you know. Dope boy hair gray like a grandma. You know my eyes blingin' light up just like a candle. Roly poly, I can't control shawty like a channel. My Rex are squeaking, I'm not fighting. I hop in a Rari, I crank out a wire.